Well, hello once again, friends. It's been a while. You know, it's kind of amazing. The past 2 years have just been a blur with all this occurred, all this going on, all the periods of waiting and yet the periods of trying to be active at the same time. But this past year was something fierce, and we sit here. This is the month of February, and we have finally gone camping once again, for the first time since mid-fall. But before we went camping, Katie and I in mid-January had the opportunity to go to North Carolina and hear some footage from Chimney Rock. We were able to drop the kids off with their grandparents, and they had a few days with them, and Katie and I, probably for the first time since Evelyn had been born, were able to take more than one night away from home and away from the kids, and get away. And well, Chimney Rock is a pretty place to visit, and it looks over Lake Lure there in North Carolina. Beautiful place to go and look out, very accessible. If you can convince your wife to walk up the stairway to get to the top of the Chimney Rock. And of course, for the East Coast, you know, it's pretty high. We did also make use of I think it's the Hickory Nut Falls hiking trail, and it was cold. It was very cold. In fact, it was so cold that the waterfall was partially frozen, which made for a neat experience. Then we made our way to the Cove, which is the Billy Graham Evangelistic Association Training Center, and the chapel there. They have a museum underneath the chapel. I don't have any pictures of that, but boy, the chapel itself is gorgeous. And of course, Billy Graham, a resonant life, meaning that he too followed the Lord Jesus Christ, and that is our belief. It makes all the difference. We went to the entrance of the Biltmore, and then decided instead of paying that much to go look at their old junk, we'd go to the antique store there in Nashville and looked at some other old junk. But had a good time. Went to the farmers market, and then went to the Moose Cafe. And I don't usually take pictures of my food before I eat it. Of course, it doesn't usually sit on my plate very long before I eat it, but we did that day. It was fantastic, and just had a good time. And they had a special treat there. The last night we were there, the Crusade folks were in the training meeting and had Michael W. Smith come in and do a private concert for them, and they invited those of us on that retreat to come in too. Later in the month, we went to Nashville for the National Taekwondo Tournament for Taekwondo America, and that is the school system that our kids are a part of. And so there in Nashville, I think we had about 30 students from our Jacksonville school come up and compete. And here you see Micaiah's ring. He was the only one of our kids that competed that week. This is what they call doing their form or their pattern, and that is based on the belt level that they have. They compete with other young men and ladies in their ring. Micaiah, in the pattern, came in second. In the sparring, you see a little bit of that here. He came in third place. But and all of this while having bronchitis, which we didn't know at the time. I don't know that we would have had him compete if we'd known he was as sick as he was. But he was a trooper and did good. Made his family and his school proud. And at the end of the month, 1st of February, right in there, it was time for testing. And so here's Olivia and getting moving on to her next level of black belt. She did a great job that day. Evelyn didn't test because she was sick. But it was finally time to go camping. So we hooked up. Loaded up. And made our way to Cathedral Caverns State Park. Cathedral Caverns is located north of Lake Guntersville, and only about hour and 50 minutes drive for us. So that was a nice short but good trip. With all that's been going on this year, we just have not had time to get away like we normally like to. The mental acuity and the emotional ability to get all the camera stuff together and get it set up and get the pictures taken is kind of tough. Even and I hate to say it, even the testing for Olivia, that was something that Evelyn did. She took her camera and she got that footage for us of Olivia doing her form. One thing I will say, if you go from the south coming up towards Cathedral Caverns State Park, Grant, Alabama is up on top of the mountain, and you go straight up to get to it and straight down from it. There's not switchbacky roads. It's just straight and up and down. And so you just need to be mindful of that. Cathedral Caverns is not the largest of parks. They do have 25 full service hookup sites, and then 11 basic campsites with the power and water only, and then 5 primitive and 2 backcountry sites. But you'll see here as part of the drive-through, you turn in there to the campground, and that's before you come to any ranger stations or anything like that. They did have, of course, camp hosts and some folks there very friendly. It's really just one loop, and so there's a good spot for kids to ride bikes and that kind of thing. There's a dirt drive that goes back to where the bathhouse is, and of course it's a pretty good hike from from your campsite here in the front area, but it's not too bad. And of course, since you have full hookups, you don't really have to have the bathhouse or access to it. There's a dumpster there, so you can take care of trash and that kind of stuff without leaving the campground. They were putting up internet equipment when we got there, and so that was nice to have that equipment and internet access if you want that kind of thing when you're camping. And then here we pull out and show the lower half of the loop. We were in site 15, 16 there on the left, 17, so forth. They did have a couple of buddy sites where you could park two campers there together, and they were laid out probably nicer than any we've seen so far. One of them was you would both pull in the same direction, and then the other one was kind of a two-tiered ordeal pull through, but very, very neat. When you come down the hill from the campground, you come back to that roadway there. If you turn right past that, I don't know if that's a cypress or not cypress tree, cedar tree, then that would take you to the bathhouse, etc. Or you go to the road and turn and head up to the actual state park office. And it is a fair little drive uphill. Weren't a whole lot of folks present during our stay. The first night, it was, in fact, maybe one other camper, and then us and some of our friends who came along for the journey. I think the second night we were there, which would have been Friday night, there were 3 more families that came in. But a little bit of a hidden gem in the Alabama State Park system. As far as camping goes, they have a neat little store. Complete with stuffed animal collection. The staff was exceptionally friendly and helpful during our stay. We had a great time just talking with them, from the guys there at that were putting up the internet to the ladies in the office and the tour. When you walk out from the camp, the state park office, you can see the entrance to the cavern. It's quite impressive. The campsites appear to be side to side, very level. Front to back, you got to do a little adjustment, but that's pretty typical. But all the hookups were brand new at this time, and easy to clean, easy to use. Of course, part of camping is setting up camp. Or occasionally just standing around. It's not usually our modus operandi to do a fire at our campsite. We just typically don't. But we did this week. It was chilly. It was nice during the day, but mornings and evenings were cool. So I went ahead and bit the bullet, and not too bad for being a little rusty. It's an encouraging thing. Of course, we don't cook on the campfire usually. We use modern conveniences. But there is something about a campfire, that just, I don't know, it changes your attitude. After such a busy year, it was just absolutely wonderful to slow down a little bit. Especially because what is to come here in the next few months. Katie will be having another surgery. That will be to implant a second DBS transmitter on the right hand side of her brain. And so we wanted to take this opportunity. Thankfully, our friends, the Carsons, were able to squeeze out from work a little bit and come on over. They have a new camper and a new canine to throw into the mix. So that added some intrigue for our kids to the camping experience. On Friday, we went back to the state park office and got ready to head into the cavern. Some cedar wax wings. They're getting a drink from the water that comes down there to the cave entrance. We heard a lot of noise coming from the cavern, and we found out why. A lot of wildlife comes out of there. Largest natural cave opening I know in Alabama. And because I was taking pictures and not paying attention, probably there's some more information I should give you here, but it was just our group too for the tour during that time slot. The cavern is such a neat place. They had used or thought they would use it for a fallout shelter, if ever that was needed. So let's talk about wildlife in the cave. They have bats, a very small variety. They also have the cave crickets. One thing about this cave is it is, cavernous. But it is at no point on the tour did I ever feel claustrophobic. There were a few spots with lower ceiling, but the pathway is wide, and the whole cavern is ADA accessible. And so there are no steps. Our tour guide had offered to bring a cart if we thought that was necessary, but we decided to hoof it, and so we walked, I think, 3/4 of a mile to the back of the cavern, and then, of course, 3/4 mile out. Our tour guide, Miss Rita, was fantastic, and she's been there, I think, 19 or 20 years, and great personality, very accommodating, and you get to see some of the things. There was a private individual, Mr. Gurley, who originally purchased the cave and started working to make it accessible. And of course the state park system has come in and just made it more accessible. Lighting was always very adequate and well done, well placed. Several times one of our group commented that it seemed that we were in the Lord of the Rings trilogy or something of the like, because again, it's just a different kind of cavern. A lot of formations. It's a different kind of quiet in the cavern. There is always, though, the present sound of water. That was fascinating. There's no fish or anything like that. At least none that you can see or they found. By the time we got to the end of the cavern, it was taking its toll on Katie, but she was a trooper and kept moving. If one knows the way in, then one knows the way out. At least in this cavern system.
Rainbow flame.
How is it doing that?
I see purple.
I see purple.
I see blue, purple, and yellow, gold.
You guys eating stuff in the camping?
No, we weren't.
We've been playing checkers.
How'd it go?
She won.
How'd that go?
I see the blue.
But don't sing the blue.
What could it be?
Sometimes it's just spending time around the campfire. Talking about who won the checkers game. Big plans coming up. Sometimes it's the sights that you see. Or the friends you get to spend time with. And sometimes it's the smaller things, like helping your little sister take her baby seat off of her bike. Or just the solitude in between meals when people are distracted. Yeah, middle of March, Katie will be having one surgery, and they'll be replacing her stimulator battery and control unit. And then at the end of March, she'll go in for the deep brain stimulator implant. And so we covet your prayers. It is a life-changing type of thing. And so we hope to have the same kind of results that we had after the first surgery. God's good. We hope that you all are blessed and look forward to seeing you next time.